not even mean Bowers game for me.
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, and today we're excited to check out Dragonscales from Arcane Wonders. This is for 2 to 5 players. Age is 14 plus, it'll take about 1 hour to play. And Dragonscales is the next game in the Dice Tower Essentials line. So Tom Vasel came out and said, I think these are games that you absolutely need to have in your collection. So far, I've really enjoyed the games that he's put into that line, except for one in particular, which I thought was good and not great. So really excited about this. I've got a very strong track record playing Arcane Wonder games. I don't think there's been any of them so far that I've really disliked ever. So needless to say, excited to try out this very take-that game with different scoring conditions based on how the game ends and some other really interesting things mixed in there. So let's open it up and I'll tell you what I think about it. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Dragonscales. First and foremost, we're going to handy dandy rule booklet, 24 pages, double-sided, full color, full of pictures, illustrations, examples. Very well done. Look at all that. Look at all those pictures and illustrations as examples. Big thumbs up on the rule booklet. Very user-friendly. Huge thumbs up on it. So, in Dragonscales, this is a very interesting game because there's not one particular way to win the game. You're, of course, trying to get the most victory points, but you can end the game by either going through this labyrinth over here, and as you can see, it's a really long board, and escaping all the way to the exit. If you get to the exit, then you immediately have ended the game, and you've also gotten yourself 10 points, which is great. Over here, though, you can also fight this three-headed dragon, and the three-headed dragon, once you chop off all 3 of its heads, then the game ends immediately as well. So there's 2 different ways the game can end, along with a third way, which is if the dragon kills everybody, then, well, then the game is just over, obviously. But let's go over the components. Let's get into the gameplay. So component-wise, you're going to have this big old board set up, and this is going to be your main area over here. This is where you're going to be setting dice, and every player is going to get their own miniatures, and you'll go and get your own little custom miniature, which looks really nice, and you're going to get your 7 die. You're going to get a player shield, which will have a whole bunch of useful information over here, and not as much as you'd like over here. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And you're going to get these villain cards. Now, the villain cards are each different for each villain, and this is a good time to show you that I do like the box insert, except for one minor thing. So it holds the cards, and then it holds your dice, and then it holds this. But make sure that you don't put all of the dice into here, because then it's really hard to get them out of there. But yeah, other than that, very nicely done box insert, which I want to show you there for a second. But back to the game itself. So everyone's going to get one of these player screens. Everyone's going to get 3 of these Dragonscales. And these are going to be the currency in the game, and they're also going to be worth a half point pretty much at the end of the game as well. We've got some dice over here, which we'll talk a little bit about later. We've set everything up. We got our 3-headed dragon with the red, yellow, and blue cubes. You'll put different numbers of cubes out based on the play count. And then over all the way to the side, we have our wounds. But we'll talk more about that all later. So let's start and focus on over here and actually run you through a mock turn, because it is relatively simple what you're going to do on your turn. So, first thing you're always going to do is you're going to roll your dice, and you're going to roll them King of Tokyo style behind your dice shield. And this is a huge honor system right now. And what you're going to see are a couple different faces. So first and foremost, this is Dragon's Rage, which means that the dragon is going to be attacking you. This locks your dice in place. You cannot re-roll that, unless, of course, you have some other fancy-dancy cards, because there will be some of these that will break all sorts of rules, and there will be some of these treasure cards right here that will break all sorts of rules as well, but we'll talk about that later. So the other symbols we have are the foot. Now, the foot is going to allow you to run through the cave to escape the dragon, because as I mentioned, you can either fight or you can run, and you can do both, and you're going to be doing both quite frequently. The other thing about running is that when you land on a specific spot, you're going to get that bonus, and I like how they do it. It says you can go up to this number of spaces, which means if you're in a really good spot that's going to heal you or let you get treasure or something like that, you can just stay there. You don't have to move. But those are the feet. Next, you're going to have shields, and the shields are going to help you by allowing you to heal, but also allowing you to get this amazing, incredible token right here. This might be the best token ever in the history of board games. You are protected from all wounds and theft for this round, which, let me tell you, this thing will be incredibly valuable there. So the other symbols you're going to see are, this is a wild, and I like how they do the wilds in the game. You can only get up to 3 wilds on your dice, but when you roll a wild, it can be combined with something else. So these can't just be shields, or they can't just be swords, unless you actually have a shield or a sword to kind of morph it with. So what do we got next? We got the Skull, which is the villainy, which is going to allow you to draw your cards. Now, these cards are very mean. In particular, this green one is all out poison. She has her own cubes where she's going to be able to poison things. Some are better at healing. One of my personal favorites that I got a chance to play the first time was this dude right here, who has these minions that he can sacrifice and do all sorts of cool things with. But each of them does play slightly differently, which I did like a whole bunch. And I think that's really, if this game gets popular, where you're going to see a lot more additions to the game. But we'll talk more about that in the pros and cons. So that one's going to allow you to get the villainy cards. The loot, while you are in a Dragon's Cave, there's loot all around you, and then you can get treasure cards. Now, treasure cards are incredibly useful for a couple different reasons. First, boom, they're worth a lot of victory points. This is worth 5 victory points at the end of the game if you don't use it. But if you do use it, you're going to be able to heal all your wounds or all of someone else's wounds, which is why the point where I should tell you that this is an Arcane Wonders game. And I love Arcane Wonders because one thing that they really love to do in their games is negotiating and bribing and trading. And this game has a very open, free-form negotiation and trading, and I think it really enhances the game because you can say, oh, I'll heal you, but I want, you know, some of your red cubes or your blue cubes or your yellow cubes or your dragon scale or this or that. Which I really did like. The only thing you can't trade, I believe, were the villainy cards, because that's like your own personal attributes. But there's tons of these. Some of them are going to be persistent special uses, but you do have to pay the dragon scale cost to use them, but these are great. But once again, they can be stolen, which stinks. So we got the loot, then we got the attack. That's the only one we haven't talked about. And how the attack works is like this. When you get these, you are going to attack the dragon. And attacking the dragon is going to have you rolling either 8, 6, or 4 dice. And how it works is you're either going to get damaged by the dragon when you get the dragon rage, or you are going to, well, in this case, not get any swords, but you got to do it still King of Tokyo style. So I got 3 here, and I might go for 1 more. And yeah, boom. So I would deal 3 damage to the dragon, and I would get myself 2, I would get 1 damage. Because how it breaks down is for every 2 damage you do to something, either the dragon or to you, you're pretty much going to get 1 damage. So 1 or 2, so this would still be 1 damage to me as well. Now, health is really hard in this game. So you're going to keep track of how many health you've lost by getting these red cubes over here when you get damaged, and everybody can see your health at all times. This is how much health you have. They also have it on the back as well, which is nice. But what I really want to get to over here is the really cool dice placement system. So let's focus on over here, and then we'll show you how this works. So while you're rolling your 7 dice, and let's get back to the actual phases, which is we're going to roll our dice, and let's just pretend these are the dice I have. Then you're going to choose your action. So everyone's starting with the starting player, which has a token, obviously. You're going to take out all your stuff, and you're going to place them. So I would place 2 here, and maybe I'll turn this into a while. I really want to attack. I really want to run, and I would do that. Now let me grab somebody else's dice, and I'll show you exactly how this system works, because it's really kind of neat, and it makes for some interesting choices. Because while I had a great roll there, I didn't have any dragon's eyes, because as you can see, when you get the dragons, you have to do that up there. So let's just say, so if this guy had 2 feet, he would now bump me down 1 space. And depending on your player count, you're going to have 1 less space in the number of players. So for instance, in a 4-player game, there would only be 3 spots here. Now, if he only had 1 blue dice, then he could not bump me, but he would go to the back spot right there. So let's see, he has 2 shields, he has 1 dragon, he's going to say he's got 2 diamonds, which would bump me down, and, I don't know, let's see, 1 sword. So he'd go right there. And the lower you are on the track, the less appealing your action is going to be. So right here, I talked about how you can heal 3 wounds or become protected from all wounds and thefts. You get this token, which is great. But if you're in 2nd place, you still get to heal 3 wounds. 4th place, heal 2 wounds. Here, you're going to get to draw villainy cards. But if you're in 3rd place, you only draw 1 villainy card. Whereas in the other spaces, you're going to be able to draw villainy cards and then pick specific ones you want sometimes. But that's what's going to be the actions. You're going to make your way from the top all the way to the bottom, trying not to die, defeating the dragon. Because as I mentioned a little bit earlier, when you do damage to the dragon, you physically take cubes off of any one of the heads. So I have 3 damage, so I'll take 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 yellow. And these are all going to be worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. And also, if, and this is really interesting, if the dragon ends up getting killed, you're going to get bonus points
for how many of these you have if you're in first or second. However, if someone escapes through the exit and the dragon doesn't die, you'll still get 1 victory point for all these, but you won't get these extra trophies, which I haven't even had the chance to show you. Instead, you'll get trophies based on your position in here. So if it ends this way, you want to be closer to the exit, whereas if it ends this way, you're going to want to have more of specific dragon cubes. So there are different ways the game can end, and they have different scoring systems, which I really like, and they're done very cleanly on the back of the rule booklet, pointing back to how great the rule booklet is. We'll show you one last thing, and let's get you out of here. So last thing is the Dragon's Rage spot, and this is the only spot over here that everyone can go on. So I mentioned a little bit before, if you're playing a 4-player game, you'd only be able to do 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. However, the Dragon's Rage spot does not have that required, which means if you roll a Dragon's Rage, you are always going to have to deal with it. That's actually the wrong one. Beep. Yeah, you're always going to have to deal with whatever it is. How that works is when you get to that phase, you're going to flip over this card, and you will see that the person in the first spot is going to take 1 damage, and then you're also going to have to deal with this. Now, what I really like here is also on the bottom. You only have to deal with the thing on the bottom if the dragon is enraged, which happens when one of his heads gets cut off. So as soon as all the blue, red, or yellow cubes are off the game board, now you have to deal with both this and this and that. And some of them can be pretty mean. Let's see if we can get to ourselves to a mean one. So this one, the first player is going to lose 3 health, which is a good chunk of health, but they will get a villainy card, which is great. Each player may heal 1 villain wound or gain 1 dragon scale from the horde. So they're going to have some events that will also swing the game potentially in some interesting ways. But that is what you're going to do. So you're either going to end the game by getting all the way out of the exit, or by defeating the dragon, or by everyone dying. And that's another interesting aspect of this game that I really like, is that even if you die, and there is just straight player elimination, if you lose all your health, boom, you are completely dead, you can still potentially win. You can still win the game. It's unlikely that it would happen, but it still is something that can happen. You still count up your score at the end of the game. Whoever has the most points, obviously the winner, but that, in a nutshell, is how you're going to play Dragonscales.
Alrighty then, Dragonscales from Arcane Wonders. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, at 3 players, I felt like there was a little bit of a team up on the leader aspect, and it could be get really bad, because in a 5-player game, it's a lot harder to know who's in first place for sure, but in a 3-player game, it's like, you know your points, you're paying attention to what everybody else is doing, you know who is winning the game. And if 2 people really team up on that third person, and they don't stop teaming up on that third person at a certain point, because you're never quite sure if you've beaten them up enough, that third person can absolutely feel like they have no chance of winning the game. And that actually happened when I played this. I played this 3 times at 3, 4, and 5 players. Loved it at 5. Really liked it at 4. Still think it's a really great game at 4. And then at 3 players, I don't think I'd revisit it at 3 players, to be honest with you. It's a good game. Don't get me wrong. I still enjoyed the game, but I liked it more at the higher player counts, where you had more different villains doing more different things. I felt like it just made the game a little bit better. Continuing on with the cons, that's another thing. This is a very mean game. You need to know that going into this. But I do think this is a great family game. If you have kids age, I'd say about 12 plus. It was a little much for my 10-year-olds. Like they learned it, they understood it, but I still think it would have gone over better at 11 or 12 years old. But it's super mean, and that was one thing that everybody noticed when they played this game. It's like, wow, this is a really jerky game. Like, we are consistently attacking each other over and over and over and over and over again. Which, I'm gonna, a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is immediately not a game for me. But it didn't bug me. I think there's enough great stuff in this game to mitigate all that take-thatiness, if you don't like take that. And why I still think this is a game that you might want to try, absolutely, even if you're not a fan of take-that games, because there's some really awesome gameplay down here as well. Continuing on with the cons, something with the box insert, which is really stinking well done. Really nice looking. It holds everything really well. It's got a spot to put your miniatures in there, then you pop your dice in here. But the problem is, once you get your dice in there, it's really stinking hard to get them out. I mean, you could do it, but it's just annoying. It's a nuisance. It's a minor nitpick. But hey, that's what the cons are for. Continuing on with the cons. I did have a buddy of mine who felt like one of the characters was slightly underpowered, and that I believe was the red one. I watched. It got played again one more time. It got played again in the 3-player game. It didn't get played in the 4-player game. But the kid that played that character was doing fine. So, I don't know. But I will say, he complained about it during the game. And after the game, he was like, I really feel like this one's underpowered. And that character does have lower health. And also, we were looking at their cards as opposed to our villainous cards. And I was like, yeah, these villainous cards don't seem as well. This leads to another con of the game, which is that all the villainous decks are kind of different, and you kind of really want to know how to play that deck. So I feel like this is a game that you're going to play better at the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever time you play the game, as you know how the different characters kind of work and interact, and you might even start to remember specific villainous cards that are going to be coming up in the deck. Because there's this spot on the board where it's like, draw 2 cards, look at one, and then put one back underneath. And if you know that you have some really spectacular cards in your deck that are going to help you an awful lot, and you know what those cards are, if you can remember that, you might be cycling to get to those cards and setting up scenarios where, that card is really going to crush. So I definitely felt like the more I played the game, the better I got at the game. So that is something I did want to note. Any other cons that I have with the game? It's an unnecessary miniatures game. Not really a con, just more of an observation. This game didn't need miniatures. They're nice. They help with the theme coming across, but could have been standees, could have been anything. Would have been really fine. Any other cons that I have with the game? No, nothing I can really think of. Moving on to the pros, I thought Dragonscales was great. Absolutely great. This is going into my collection, and I agree with Tom. When he said that this is a game that he thinks everybody should have in their collection, I will agree with that. Because here's the genre that this game fits and what I think he was going for. This is the best take that game that I think I've ever played, and this is the most strategic-y, it's not a word, take that game I think I've played as well. There's a lot of other take that games, but I felt like this one did it incredibly well, and especially at the hour time slot was nice. So what I like about the game, and what in particular how it did it, I liked how you could really mitigate the take that nature of it, because you never felt like, oh, that completely crushed me, I'm completely done. It's always like, I still have villainous cards, I still have treasure, I still have Dragonscales, I still have my health. A couple of those you are still going to have pretty much in any scenario, or I still have a whole bunch of victory points. So if I can weather this storm, I'm going to win because I've been chopping the heads off dragons, doing that sort of thing. And it always felt like you had tricks up your sleeve, and everybody loves it. I love this in games where it feels like you have tricks up your sleeve. I'm talking about those cards that it's like, I'm not playing this card, I'm saving this card for a rainy day. And if you play Munchkin, you know all about these. The cards that like, oh, these are going to let you gain levels. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do that, right at the right time. Or this is a card that lets you do something crazy powerful. So you set it off to the side, and then you play. And then maybe you start accumulating a couple tricks up your sleeve. And then it's like, yeah, I got this. And it's just like, you feel bulletproof for a minute. It's a really cool feeling to get in board games. But not every board game can do that. This one does do that. I feel like it does it well. I also like the fact that all the characters are different and unique, and if this game gets popular, I really see that these miniatures and these booster packs, these villainous packs, could be something big, because each of the characters play different, and I liked experimenting and trying all the different characters, and seeing exactly what they did. I think my favorite one was the poison one where you could shoot people with the poison arrows. That was really stinking cool, and really powerful, especially depending on how much attacking is going on. I liked how you're never sure who was in first place, especially at the higher player counts, because there was different ways to score points, and you didn't know how the game was going to end. You were never quite sure how the game was going to end, which I really like that aspect. And in one of the games, really, in particular, it came down really close to we were not sure if someone was going to escape or if someone was going to chop off the head, and it was like, oh no, what do we do? And I like that aspect of the game. I thought that was really stinking cool, because I was towards the back of the line. I was in last place, and I was like, oh, please, 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 chop the heads off. Don't go through there, because if not, because I got a good chance if I don't have those -5 victory points for that, and I'm getting the trophies. Which is another thing I really liked about the game. I liked how there was 3 different ways the game could end. I never encountered the one where everyone died, and I don't think that would happen too typically, but it would happen from time to time, which it would be a pretty awesome game, I think. I really like how it can end either by chopping off the heads, or it can end by getting out of the cave, and that was really neat. I was a big fan of how the dragon became enraged as well. I thought that was a really cool mechanism, and it connected to the theme, and that's the other thing that I really liked about this game. I think this might be my favorite aspect of the game, was thematically everything really kind of weaved together to bring out the theme in a really good way. Like the rules did, and the dice did, and the minis did, and the components did, and just everything thematically works in this game. And so hats off for the theme. I think it came across really well. Every single game of the 3 games that I played, someone was kind of role-playing their character at some point and saying something that was like, oh, I'm going to shoot you with this, or I'm going to crush my minions and heal you, or something like that. We had one of those at the table. And that brings across the game really well. That makes you want to play the game again, and I do. I would absolutely play this game again. I mean, I have a lot of games I need to play at game night, but if someone was like, I really enjoyed that Dragonscales, let's play that again, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. That sounds like fun. I think it's a really great game, and I absolutely can recommend it. Even if you don't like Take That games, this still is one that I'd recommend you try, because I think you might like it. The rules were well done, components are great, and a game that I really hope does well, and I get to see more cards in the future. I want more treasures, I want more villainous cards, villainous characters, I want more everything. But there you go, that is Dragonscales from Arcane Wonders. One Eye is going directly onto my shelf and probably getting played pretty routinely, I think. Maybe, a couple times a year, which in my house is pretty routinely because a lot more games. But in your house, that's probably going to be more than that, assuming everybody gravitates towards it. But there you go. If you're enjoying what I'm doing, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. If you want to support the channel, click on the little Amazon Associates link down below. Buy anything on Amazon, throws a couple pennies my way. And in the comments below, let me know, what is your favorite Take That game? A game which has a whole boatload of attacking each other in kind of sneaky ways. For me personally, it used to be Munchkin. I've always had a really soft spot in my heart for Munchkin. I have a whole bunch of Munchkin decks. I still do. I probably have, between me and my buddy Eric's house, 20 versions of Munchkin, which I think gets into that you have a problem level of Munchkin. But let me know in the comments below. What's your favorite Take That? Oh, this, though. I like this better. I absolutely like this better. This is a better game than Munchkin. Let me rephrase that. But let me know in the comments below. What's your favorite Take That game? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.